Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast, a show where each week we sit down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The daily ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing Stargate by Roland Emmerich, Munich by Steven Spielberg, Nomadland by Chloe Zhao, Wrath of Man by Guy Ritchie, and Cruella, directed by Craig Gillespie. So stay tuned and enjoy the show. Mr. Vincent Daly, how we doing, sir?
How's it going, Tom?
It's going well. How was your week?
Busy. A week exciting because of seeing at least one very, very good film. But I feel going through some of the theater releases not as hot on, but excited to talk about them nonetheless.
I'm excited for a few of these for sure, yeah.
But we can get right into it, if that sounds good to you. We got the pleasantries out of the way.
Absolutely. What do we want to start with?
I think we're going to be starting with Stargate, 1994. Stargate, of course, the classic movie. I would say definitely in the likes of an Independence Day, a Starship Troopers almost. A gem of the 90s. I was interested in watching it to see. Does it hold up? I think that is where my ranking for it and my rating for it lies for you, the audience, to find if these old sci-fis are worth it. I would really like to kind of go back and almost in a series to see what holds up, what doesn't.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think it was as far as the 90s go, Stargate, and then you had Independence Day was 3 or 4 years afterwards, I think.
Yeah, something like that. I believe same director, too.
This didn't have the following that Independence Day had, though, right?
No, but
Independence Day was unbelievable.
It did spawn a series, as
far
far
that's
as
true,
you
yeah.
know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's obviously got sci-fi money, so
Yeah.
it's not really like Sci-Fi the Channel. So they were probably trying to fish for IPs and whatnot. But that's primarily where my rating of this is coming at. It's making sure that I can look critically at how do I see the storylines hold up against what I feel is very focused science fiction in the 2010s, a la Denis Villeneuve as a director and things like that. And how does the effects hold up? I think Stargate is still definitely on a simple pass-fail, definitely still a pass for me. It's absolutely undeniably a 90s film.
Yes,
There are, I think, a total of 5 sneeze jokes. The way that they're interlacing comedy and the stakes of what them traveling into this portal, it's gonna be what I would say has a lot of camp to it now. I think it holds up, though, and the performances from Kurt Russell and, I am completely blanking
James
on
Spader.
James Spader.
Yep.
How could I forget a Boston legal fame?
What are you going to do?
Right. I should say probably the Ultron
Is he
fame.
full on Spader? Does he have his tics kind of about him?
Yes, and they're playing into that. I mean, this is early performance for him.
He's young.
Very young. Very young. To the core of what I'm trying to say, the actual practical effects in this film absolutely hold up. Almost everything is done either by superimposing it onto the screen, as such as the effect of the portal itself, the Stargate, and a lot of physical prop work, which holds up wonderfully. I think I was very positive on it. I think where the film falls short, especially on rewatching it, it kind of can't make up its mind whether it wants to be this exciting science adventure inspired by, the discovery of what they're coming across. But then they obviously have to make a movie out of it. And I feel the second half of the film, when it leans into the dramatic elements, obviously the conflict, I think that's actually where it grows weaker for me.
Oh, okay.
I would say for my science fiction nerds out there, you've probably seen Stargate already. But if you haven't seen Stargate, I think it falls into a pass for me. Definitely a good movie. I think it does fall short of a great movie, though. And we're going to go ahead and giving it a 68.
68%. Okay. I was expecting maybe a little bit high. So, because Vince, this is one of our first episodes here. So, for Vince, you would definitely say that when it comes to sci-fi films, you're maybe higher than the average. So, I know for me, if I watch 100%. This, I would be lower than a 68 probably. Sure. But with Westerns, we switch.
Yeah, absolutely.
In my head, I'm always thinking Westerns have more to their name than you would say. 68 though, that's not bad.
Yeah. I think during the watch of the film, maybe
and Kurt Russell's great in it, right?
He is. I think during the watch of the film, I was even higher to it, maybe even in the 70s.
Sure.
But like I said, I think it
drops off a bit.
Yeah.
In Act 2 and 3.
Yeah.
All right, so that's 68 for Stargate. Let's move on to Munich.
Let's go ahead and give the first big boy alert.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, stand by. We have a big boy alert here.
We have a big boy alert. Munich was something that was on my list for a long time, on both a watch list for Tom and I as well.
Yeah, I got into a Daniel Craig kick years ago.
Yeah. And Munich, I believe, landed on my radar initially because of some of the cinematography work in the famous and almost elusive Spielberg oneer. A very long one take, but that Spielberg uses in his films, but kind of blend in and kind of seem like it's an edited cut, but is in fact a one take. Munich is a fascinating film, much like we covered in probably a recent rating of looking at how current events kind of play into an understanding and an appreciation of a film.
Right.
Of course, the very central to this is the Munich bombing in the 1972 Olympics that spawns this fiction film, but based off of a nonfiction event.
Yeah.
And in the very beginning is a fun spy, kind of a international romp. It's a long movie.
It's 2 hours. Yeah, it's about 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's Steven Spielberg. You have Eric Bana, Daniel Craig, who at the time, what was it, in 2005, wasn't that big. I mean, this was pre-Bond.
Yep.
And it just kind of snuck by. Mm-hmm. I know people enjoyed it who saw it, and it kind of has a small cult following a little bit. But it's like, if you asked, 20 people to name Steven Spielberg movies, the vast majority of them
I'm gonna skip this one.
Wouldn't even realize that this was a film made by him.
Yeah,
they probably wouldn't even remember that it ever came out.
Absolutely. I think even after seeing the film, besides what I was looking forward to for his cinematography, story-wise, doesn't seem like a Spielberg story that he would pick up.
And with Spielberg, it's just per movie, it's just a roller coaster ride. It's how is this one gonna be?
Right.
And I mean, you see, because some of Spielberg stuff is just not that.
Right.
But anyway, so it's 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yes. And I definitely was maybe looking at the clock a little bit, but really was engaged because very early on in the film, it almost lays out its timeline of what, the checklist of what needs to be done.
Does it start off quick? You said it
I think it starts off explosive in the sense that the very first scene is the hostage plot of 1972.
Okay.
And that then spawns everything.
Okay.
So you're kind of spiked at this first moment, and really interesting how it's layered to almost kind of jump around in how that was structured, and then really focus on what the event is going to spawn in this fiction story rather than the events itself. This is not like an Argo.
Right.
This is not like a bio type pick of a hostage situation, real event. Rather, this is a story that is inspired by those events and trying to tell a world of espionage between Israel and Palestine. And in the beginning is paced energetically. I thought almost I was going to be knocking it for how mismatched I feel the intensity of the film and the narrative was with how almost happy-go-lucky it was. It kind of took me back. But the film does a wonderful balancing act of introducing you to this world, introducing the goals of the characters, and then slowly setting in the realization of what toll is taken on these characters for this monumental task.
Yep.
And what they're ultimately, kind of left with. I would, in the end result, compare this more to a Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, not because of its structure or even in its topic of the story, almost with the feeling that you're coming out of it. And I think that's important to note, especially as someone, maybe a lot of people that haven't seen Munich.
Right.
Where this rating comes into play and how you're coming out of watching the movie.
But the pacing is still decent for 2 hours and 45 minutes, correct?
Yes. I think it's...
Tinker Tailor, I felt dragged.
Yes, I think it's faster than Tinker Tailor. That my comment there is more so the type of intrigue and unease that comes from Tinker Tailor.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah.
That's what kind of comes off of this.
Okay.
Yes. A phenomenal movie. I think a phenomenal watch. Again, I'm always looking for something to watch, kind of something that takes on a new context while watching it historically. I'm a strong believer there is no sense in watching a film and trying to say, oh, what was it like to sit in the theaters while this happened in 2005? Or a perfect example, maybe watching older sci-fi. What was it like to sit in the theaters in the 70s and try to watch this film? I don't think there's any point in that. We're watching now. You're watching whenever you happen to get around to this film, and I think the narrative of this film has evolved amazingly. Again, I can't stress enough that the spy beats, the noir beats of the story sometimes are wonderfully aged, and it's packaged in an entertaining film that leaves you kind of gutted at the end, which is just wonderful.
Okay.
Like I said, a big boy alert.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and give Munich an 85.
Wow, okay. That's a phenomenal. That's very good.
It's a good ass movie.
And again, this is one of our first, early episode. So just want to explain to people kind of our scale and ranking and everything like that. One of the reasons why we even started this was because of Rotten Tomatoes' ridiculous. There's no through line. There's nothing you can actually understand about Rotten Tomatoes, especially when you give hundreds out as often as they do.
Right.
So for us, basically, we take it as if something gets into the 50s, it is a borderline, your most basic film.
Right.
You walk away with it forgetting about it, basically. Mm-hmm. Not that you hated it, but there's nothing to like, nothing to hate either. You're in the 60s, that's a good movie. Mm-hmm. If you're in the 60s, that's
above
a good
average
movie. Stargate, we have a 68%. Mm-hmm. Right. 70s, you're getting into very good movies.
Yes.
Definitely enjoyable, and that's a relatively high ranking. The reason why we're calling 85 a big boy alert and why it's such a big deal is because when you get the 80s, we consider these must-watch films.
Absolutely.
These are movies that everyone should definitely see. That's how good they are. So to get in the 80s is kind of a big deal. Mm-hmm. And then in the 90s, that is all-time greatest films basically ever made. We have very little 90s, very few movies in the 90s, because that's kind of how it should be, we think.
Sure.
And with hundreds, we don't really think there should be 100s. Because if tomorrow you watch a movie that's better, what do you do? Mm-hmm. There is no 101. There is no 10. You can't go higher than that. And again, it's kind of why we started this.
Absolutely.
Because we were bitching about Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes also at a point, and I think anyone...
They get political, too.
Yeah, sure, but it fails as a practical tool for how you, as an audience, should determine whether you watch or not. I think right in our very opening, it's consistent ratings. We want to make sure that you have a gauge on how I'm watching films, what I'm looking for, what I like to see, but... just because something maybe lands in a 70, you maybe even think it should be higher, it's still a marking that it's leaning towards good. It's leaning towards even a great movie in some cases, and that's where we want it to be a practical tool as well.
So, and that's why we say 85. That's a big deal. It's a very, very good movie.
You should make time to watch it.
You should definitely make time to watch it. It's a must see, basically.
3 hours of time.
Yeah. All right. So this kind of goes back. So those are 2 older films. We have coming up 3 films that are kind of in theaters still, at least at the time of recording this, and the layout of the podcast is we'll do the older films first, and then we're going to stop and do a producer segment. And what we want to do is actually thank our producers of this podcast. And the producers are you. We don't want to really look at you as listeners. We look at you as producers. And part of the reason is because, Vin and I, like we said, we started this recently. We don't want to do ads. This isn't when we want to stop and do an underwear ad or a mattress ad, things we don't care about, and just blindly promote other people's products. We want to follow the value for value model, which basically states what value did you get from our product, from our website, from this podcast. And we're looking for donations. And you can go on our website, dailyratings.com, go to the donations tab, and you can give whatever amount that you want, whether it's just a few bucks, whether it's much more than that, or whether it's, a little bit here or there and you want to do monthly. You can we have payment plans set up as well. And the idea is basically if you just enjoyed the podcast and what Vin has to offer, if you enjoyed the website and you find yourself going to it, if you could just kick something back to us. This takes a decent amount of time to do and to set up, and we would really appreciate any support from you, the producers. And if you write a little note and everything like that, what we'll do is in this segment, our producer segment, we'll say how much you donated. We'll read your note. We'll give you a shout-out. If you want to be anonymous, just say, I would like to be anonymous. We won't say your name. And that's what this segment is. We're looking to grow this into something pretty great, pretty special. Mm-hmm. We want to, not that who knows if it's going to happen. Let's take on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right, exactly.
Rotten Tomatoes is rotten.
Right.
Not the biggest fan. IMDb's, we don't like star systems either. It's too vague, too bland. Doing best out of 5 basically just doesn't work that much. So we're having fun with it. Any amount that you want to kick back to us, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. It's a value for value model. You can go to thedailyratings.com and go to the donations tab. With that, let's move on
to the next batch.
And again, at the time of recording this, we have these 3 in theaters. And let's start with Nomadland.
Nomadland, a very interesting film. Obviously, won Best Picture for the Oscars, and then Frances McDormand won Best Actress as well. Interesting film. I think definitely worth, for really what was a slow year, the Best Picture nod and win as well because of how much of a hybrid film it is, especially if you're looking to films that have won just even the year before with Parasite that blended a lot of styles and a lot of genres. Nomadland blends the style of a documentary with a drama and does it quite elegantly, including real people living in a 21st century nomad life, in vans, in caravans with other nomads and jumping from parts in the country and job to job, but seemingly all with their own spin on why they're doing and why they're driving it.
And filmed with mostly non-actors, correct?
Yes. I think that's definitely the strongest part of the film.
Okay.
The non-actors, when they're on the screen, not only does it blur the line and make you question, are they actors, are they not? Which is kind of an entertaining game to watch the film in.
Then I can only assume they went through a lot of going through people. I mean, they've had to sifted through hundreds, if not thousands of people then.
Sure.
Because they're still captivating on screen.
Absolutely. Finding the stories that work.
And finding people that can actually handle handle a camera crew in front of you.
Absolutely. Especially for emotional beats and whatnot.
Yeah, sure.
There's a confidence about these people in their lives and what they do. And I think that's when the film is absolutely at its best. The documentary side is where I really do love this film. I think where the film falls short for me is the drama side. And not to take the Best Actress for Frances away from her, but I feel the story of her character which you could really see as the backbone or the spine of the whole film that runs through it. I mean, she is our main protagonist.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
I feel that's the weakest because her story development, her beats are interlaid through these interview sections with these people. So you'll have her talking, and then you'll see almost her have to deliver a line of exposition or something like that tied into it. And the real people, they are actors now, they react fine to it. But it's more so a case where I feel that the story beats, they're not, it's not that they're out of order, but they're too infrequent. And sometimes they're not even delivered at the most impactful time. And I found myself having a very hard time connecting in any sort of way with our main character other than, wow, she's a part of this world that is totally new to her and seemingly finding her way through it. With that in mind, I don't think it takes away from the beauty of the juggling act of what it does. Much like a movie like Parasite, where you're just kind of in awe of how many different genres and feelings the film is creating throughout the ride, throughout its runtime. So I think, again, a unique film, worth the watch 100%. And I think if you're looking for something to explore, if you're interested in tackling what is the award winners each year, it's going to be on your list regardless. For me, though, critically, I think the drama of the film fails a little bit for me. As interesting as what goes on is, it was lacking. It was lacking in a way.
Felt empty a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And believe me, you're waiting almost on the edge of your seat. Not that what's going on the screen is tense, but it's almost you're just waiting to get something on the line for why this character is doing what she's doing, and you want some substance there, and it almost never comes. And when it does come, it's always second thought to these real people on the screen. So it just makes me curious why, especially with how impressive of a job that is done by the director to find these people, the scouting involved of this, why this kind of hybrid narrative was chosen. Obviously, it won the Oscar, so she's proven it right. But nonetheless, I think critically looking on the film, I have to look at it as, when does the novelty wear off, and where does the critical outlook that I would have with any film really hit home with it. And that's with the actual, performances, with the actual narrative of the film. And I think that's fairly weak. So, bit of a controversial score, I would say, especially coming off of a film that's had probably the most hype out of 2020. Not a exactly a knockout year for film, but it did create some buzz. We're gonna go ahead and give Nomadland a 70 on the dot.
70, okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad at all.
And again, even just to call back to Tom's and I's explanation of some of the rankings here, it that really isn't a bad score. Maybe by Rotten Tomatoes, or you would see in a quick Google search, you would see a 70, and you would say that's maybe leaning towards something not worth your time.
It's a should watch.
Exactly.
70s are a should watch.
Exactly. So,
all right, Nomadland. 70%, very good. All right, next one, let's go to Wrath of Man.
180 if there ever was one. Wrath of Man, Guy Ritchie is behind the camera and directing this, coming off of such hits like Aladdin live action and The Gentleman. Wrath of Man is a true blue action film. I would say the standout for me watching this film is how the action is structured. Basically, we take a single event that is seen in the first beginning sequence of the film, and it is given to you through a couple different perspectives. And then finally, once we're done understanding all the players in the game, all the stakes, the real action of the film begins. And I thought that was very creative and not something that I can remember really has been done. I feel like a lot of movies have been following the John Wick style.
Gung Fu.
Yeah,
I'm sure there was Gung.
Nobody very recently. I hear
absolutely,
yeah, which probably will be something that we watch for the ratings.
Soon here, yeah.
I think the film definitely deserves some credit with it. If you're into 80s action films, you're probably going to love this because almost to the point of parody, the writing feels like the first sequences of Predator. It is.
I mean, that's very cool.
It's good and bad. It's good and bad.
Okay, was it not delivered well?
I wonder if it. I mean, obviously it has to be intentional, but it's laid on pretty thick. Let's just say that.
Okay.
I think if you're looking for intensity in action and then also intensity and stakes in the narrative as well, this is not the movie for you. It's definitely going to be something that you're going to have a lot of jokey characters, and then the action, the drama of the narrative kind of comes through and then tones up the stakes to 11. I think with that in mind, for me, it just didn't land, and almost right away kind of taken out of the film because I really wasn't caring about who was on the screen other than Jason Statham. I think Jason was a standout in this. Menacing, badass, and most importantly, an action hero within the film for something that you really want to see him on screen as much as possible.
It's captivating to watch.
Absolutely,
yeah, cool.
Absolutely, both in the action sequences and not. And I mean, not to pigeonhole the film too much. Once again, where it falls short for me. As much as I give praise to the interesting format of how the story is delivered in this kind of broken up narrative that returns to one single event, there's just plain Jane not enough time with Jason. And there's a very large cast to boot. I have no doubt that this will be a vehicle for a lot of the secondary actors to jump to other action roles and whatnot. And that certainly from an industry perspective, that's fine. Good for them. But for that reason, the film knows what you want and almost doesn't give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going to give Wrath of Man a 58.
Okay. 58, all right. So somewhat entertaining, but not really?
I think it's entertaining. I think if you...
It sounds like Statham was a joy to watch.
Yes.
And otherwise it was...
Keeps it from falling below... what wouldn't be worth your time.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It definitely reaches very close to above average, but is held back in a lot of ways.
Okay. So one that I'm kind of excited to hear about now, let's do Cruella.
Cruella with my girl Emma Stone. Actually, she's married now, I think, or she has a fiance. But you get divorced. Emma, give us a ring.
She'll be giving you a ring. So I didn't see this. I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, she looks good. The accent was really good. The way she portrayed herself seemed pretty captivating to watch, honestly.
Absolutely.
Did that carry through, or?
I think, Emma Thompson, who plays the antagonist, has definitely the vote for me of most captivating to watch on the screen. But no, Emma Stone does a good job as well. I think the standout 100%, as I think is always the case with these live-action Disney villains. We probably have to create a lot of silos now of the type of live-action Disneys we get. We get
very different.
The normal, and then we get the remix villains ones. So this is in that vein of a Maleficent or something like that.
Sure.
They say that an Ursula one is going to come out now for Little Mermaid. I think the costume design, what they've done to translate animated sensibilities into real world costumes, amazing. And for a movie about fashion, a serious standout.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
I think a cool remix of the setting as well. It is in 1970s punk rock UK. They use that. Very interesting in the music choice, in the type of work that is done, in the type of hustling that her and what will be the henchmen, her crew forming, how that comes about. All very good. However, I think the film's pacing is god awful.
Okay, I'm shocked to see how long it was.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I was expecting like an hour and 40 or something like that. It's 2:15.
It's 2:15. Yeah, Munich is 30 minutes away from that.
Yeah, this is a Disney.
Yeah, it's a Disney film. A lot is done to explain a backstory that I don't know. I don't know if the payoff is there. I think that's my first gripe with the film, that it does, unfortunately, waste your time, which is going to be something, again, for the practical outlook of how I rate a film, going to be something very important and something I hold in high regard. Is it wasting your time? And I think for the first hour, it's definitely
you don't want to be
wasting your
taken
time.
away from a film checking your watch.
Absolutely. And especially when the film does hit a good beat around middle of the film, and it's about Cruella coming into her own. It is so dynamite, and you're asking yourself, where was this film? Where was this the whole time?
Yeah, okay.
Because it's so good. It's like a comic book Devil Wears Prada or something like that. It's very flamboyant, and it's great. That's got to definitely go to gripe number 2, and I'm going to open a can of worms on something that is a pet peeve for me, which is music choices that don't mean a damn. This film has a bombardment of music on it. It moves...
Not in a good way.
I mean, less than 10 seconds sometimes until the next song.
So was it used as... Because the movie's slow in 2:15, when it probably, in your opinion, you would make it, 20 minutes shorter? 15 minutes shorter?
15 minutes shorter, be a little bit more... lean into the score a lot more.
So because it drags on, do they try to overcorrect almost, and they use music as a crutch to keep you engaged and to keep the pace up?
Absolutely, and they also do what I would consider a cardinal sin of just they feel that they have to put this music in just to cast the setting properly, but it's just done to such a nauseating degree that, like, I get it. It's in a punk rock Britain. I don't need anything else. You know what I mean? I don't need 3 songs showing that, especially when the music is used properly. In some of the performances in the story, it's really done well.
It's like they're using it like a knife.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You'll also see this if you do watch the film, that a lot of this is front-loaded in what I'm saying is kind of the boring part of the film.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of it is front-loaded to keep it snappy. And like I said, this is... I'll call it a cardinal sin with me. I won't reference what is the film that spawned all this. Tom knows what I'm talking about, but we'll have to leave that for when we actually get to it. So that'll be a little bit of a teaser or cliffhanger. But with that said, I think it's a damn shame the film isn't shortened down, that it doesn't recognize the magic that it achieves in the dead middle of the film, and that the front end of it is just a slog. It is just a boring paced film.
I was excited to see it.
Right, good.
It sounds like there's parts that hit, but a little bit too many misses.
Exactly, and when it hits, it really hits, and I can't stress that enough. I think almost it's worth a watch just to get to that middle point, and when Cruella is coming into her own, it
takes off from there.
It really rocks, but yeah, it's tough otherwise than that. For that reason, in the way, even with my criticism, it's kind of, meandering in the middle. We're going to give Cruella a 48.
Ooh, okay. Yep. Wow. Yeah. To be honest with you, even with that score, not the best score for sure. Out of all of these Disney remake, where you said some of these darker Disney films that are coming out.
Sure, like Maleficent.
Correct. Not that there's too many of them, but I'm most into watching this one.
Sure,
actually. And even not even just in the villain role, but in general, I don't know, something about her presence on screen was getting me, and that was just through the trailer.
Yeah.
But okay, 48.
Absolutely.
Wow. All right. Well,
and that's it, folks.
That wraps up this episode, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next time. Very much appreciated. Take care. Bye. If you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, give us a good rating or tell a friend about us. If you're wondering if a film is worth a watch, Or if you just like to see more movie ratings from Vince, be sure to stop by thedailyratings.com, where we have our ever-expanding catalog of films. Also, if you found value in the podcast or our website, become a producer. Go to the Donations tab on thedailyratings.com. You can donate whatever amount of value that you feel you received from us. You'll get a producer mention on the next podcast episode, too. We're looking to build this into something large and great, but also be independent from those corporate sponsors, so we greatly appreciate any support from you all. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on the Daily Ratings Podcast.